So you're thinking about moving to Leavenworth, Kansas? Well, great news. In this video, we're going to be talking all about Leavenworth, Kansas, some pros, cons, things you need to know before you consider making Leavenworth your home. We're going to get started right now. Hey, if this is your first time tuning into the channel, you want to know everything there is to know about living in Kansas City and places like Leavenworth, Kansas, then click subscribe, hit that little bell for notifications so you can be the first to know the current market here in the KC metro area. My name is Zach Morton. This here is Max Jones. The Mojo Real Estate team and I have been helping people move to Kansas City for over 20 years. We get calls, texts, and emails from people just like you every single day, and we absolutely love it. But you don't have to take our words for it. See what our clients have to say with over 600 5-star Google reviews from folks just like you. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, you can pick up the phone, you can give us a call, shoot us a text, drop us an email, even schedule a Zoom call. All that contact information is just below this video in the description, so you can reach out to us anytime. But today, we are talking about Leavenworth, Kansas, so let's hop in, talk about some pros and cons, and keep it positive like we always like to do. Let's start with the positives.
Sounds good.
Well, you know what, even before we get into that, Max, I did want to ask you just to change it up a little bit. When you think of Leavenworth, Kansas, what's the first thought that pops in your mind?
I think of the military base and the big prison there. That's kind of the main
image you get.
The main image is giant prison and military town, and you know, kind of isolated a little bit from Kansas City. A little bit of a jaunt to get out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think of the prison.
Okay. My first thought is just exactly what you said, kind of the isolated. It's like on a little density island out in the middle of nowhere. In fact, if you look at the map, usually like when you're on Google Maps, you're looking at Kansas City as a whole, it's all kind of yellow, surrounded by this green space that's kind of rural. Well, between Kansas City or the metro area and Leavenworth, there's actually another patch of green. So it just kind of sets off there out by itself. So that's what I think of too. In my younger days, when I used to have a street bike, a motorcycle, Leavenworth was actually that spot where we'd hop on the bikes and go riding for the afternoon, because it's a lot of windy roads to get out to that spot, a lot of country roads, so it's kind of cool. Go downtown, stop, have a beer, have some lunch, and then and then make your way back home and just kind of see the sights, drive by the prison, like you said. And it's just far enough out there where it's a good day trip, but you can get back and enjoy some of those country views. So that's what I think about. But let's talk about some pros and cons that we've kind of got on the list here. And the number one that I have to start with is the price of housing and the cost of living. So I think that's the first thing you're going to notice right out of the gate, is that the cost of living, your money goes a long way in Leavenworth. And right now, Leavenworth, you got Leavenworth, the city, which is 24 square miles. And then you've got Leavenworth, the county, which is, 436 square miles. So big, huge difference. The county of Leavenworth is massive and actually has a couple cities inside of that. So when you look at the prices for the city, they're coming in right around $220,000 is the average price out there right now, just over the last 12 months from the sales that we've had.
That's well below Kansas City. What is it, like 350?
Yeah, closer to 330, 350. So superior value if that's what you're looking for. Now, as you zoom out and you get a little further away from the city center of Leavenworth and go into the county a little bit, and you take the whole county plus the city into account, that average price point is $300,000. But when we do that, when we get out of the city, there is a lot of acreage properties. We'll talk about that, but that's one of the things that Leavenworth really has to offer is acreage once you get outside of that. So anyway, still coming in under, even when you take that whole county, over 400 square miles of real estate, still coming way in under Kansas City. So that's the first thing I think of. And that's what the stats show. And the cost of living just kind of follows that. Groceries are a little bit cheaper. Everything's out there a little bit, so the prices are just a little bit better across the board.
Cool, yeah. Leavenworth is, when was it incorporated? It's pretty old, isn't it?
Well, it is, I'm glad you asked that. It is the oldest city in Kansas. It's
Holy
the first
cow.
city in Kansas. And the whole purpose for Leavenworth and why the military has a big presence out there is Leavenworth, that base was put out there to protect the trail. The Oregon Trail to Santa Fe. That's the sole purpose of it.
Okay.
Keep it safe from the Indians, I guess. So That's it. The next thing on the list that I think is an awesome pro is the school district. Sometimes when you get into these rural, or it feels rural, this is a pretty sizable city. We got 37,000 people in that 24 square miles, so pretty dense. And then when we zoom out to the over 400 square miles, the county, there's over 81,000 people there. So pretty sizable population for just up there, out in the boonies, so to speak.
Yeah.
But with that, usually when you get away from the city center, the school districts tend to drop a little bit. But with the density and the size of Leavenworth, they have maintained the school rating. So highly rated schools, there's private school options. And with that, there is still, since it is still in the country, there's a lot of opportunity for the kids to get in all the sports programs. Yeah, across the board on Beach.com and on greatschools.org, they still have them highly rated. And that was kind of when I was reading through some of the reviews too from some of the parents, had those same comments. So
yeah, sometimes with the smaller class sizes, it's actually a little better than when there's 25 kids in every class and one teacher.
Yep. And they've got you can check out our blog tour too. They've got a really nice campus out there and a good looking school too. So definitely check that out if you want some more information on Leavenworth. Okay, that takes us to pro number 3, which I have down as that small town charm and military base, because I want to touch on both those. So it's definitely out there, but it's old, so that downtown area, it does have the main street, which is actually Cherokee, but it does have that kind of main street town where there's 28 blocks of shopping districts and restaurants down there. And within that 28 blocks, I think there's over 30 restaurants and bars. So really a lot to do down there. And it's because it's kind of isolated, I think they've been forced to make their town more fun, because you're not going to be driving to Kansas City. I mean, you're almost 45 minutes from the city center. So if you want to have a good time in the town you're in, you got to make it happen yourself. So good job, Leavenworth, for pulling that together.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always love the charm, of the old downtown around the old courthouse, with a lot of locally owned businesses, and it's not just a string of McDonald's and Hardee's and all that kind of stuff. It's small town charm is great about some of the small suburbs. Liberty is where I live. It's kind of like that too. It was separate from the Kansas City Metro. So we've got little pockets like that around town, but Leavenworth is, like say, being isolated still somewhat.
Yeah.
It's even more so.
Yeah. Pretty cool. And it's a riverfront town too. The Missouri River runs right up to it. So downtown is just Cherokee's probably about 5 or 6 blocks from the river. So it does have that riverfront park to go along with that. So you can go down, there's walking trails and all kinds of stuff down by the train tracks and down by the park. So it just has that kind of cool feel. And that's, as the settlers were getting off the boats, it's just right there. Ton of history. There's a lot of haunted places. There used to be tunnels that went underneath the streets in the town that they claim were used in the Underground Railroad and to get stuff from the ships and sneak stuff back and forth. So just a lot of cool history and
speakeasies, maybe?
Probably, I'm sure. I'm sure.
I'm always a fan of the speakeasies.
But yeah, lots of cool stuff and a great spot to hang out there. So that's, and then I also had the military base. So half of Leavenworth, that city, that 24 square miles, almost half of it is that military base. In fact, the oldest standing property in Leavenworth is a house that was built on that base. It's still there to this day. I think it's a barracks now, but so they have, you can't go in there unless you are military. It's all chained off, but they've got their, they have their own grocery store. They have their own little city behind those walls with barracks and housing and all kinds of stuff. Leavenworth is known as kind of the intellectual spot for the military. So they've got a lot of school programs that people are coming in for a couple of years, 2-4 years to go to school out there to further their military education. So a lot of great folks coming through town. You see a lot of camo though when you're in that town walking down the streets. And something I like seeing out there too is they have veteran parking in front of a lot of the gas stations. In front of the shops, you'll see signs that are veteran parking, and you'll see things that that just allude to that this is a veteran town, and wave, smile, and thank them for their service.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I actually have been on the military base. When I was going through college, I worked construction, and the company had a job on the military base. Huh. And to get in, they did background checks and everything, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful little city within a city. And one of the most striking things I remember is the military, what do you call it, cemetery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with all the, you know, white tombstones all matching. It was really just really powerful to see how many people have served our country and are laid there to rest. And it's pretty cool place. You got the military base and then the big old prison. So quite a contrast of folks.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a cool spot, and that's just something that as we get into the cons, you'll kind of know about how Leavenworth is laid out. So that brings us to, let's get into the dirty stuff a little bit and talk about some of the cons.
The cons.
And the first thing I have on here is kind of what I mentioned when we opened this video. Is it's kind of on a little density island all by itself. You've got to, it takes a little bit to get out to Leavenworth if you're coming from Kansas City. And it's not a super easy drive from anywhere, except for if you're in the Legends kind of shopping district or coming off I-70 on the Kansas side. There is 7 Highway, which is a 2-lane highway. You got 2 lanes going north, 2 lanes going south with a median in the middle. That will run you up into Leavenworth, but you are going to go through a couple small towns on the way that have stoplights. So that will be some of that stop and go highway traffic, which is always kind of weird for me. You know, it just takes a little more time to get through, and you can't just veg after work and just drive, and you got to be thinking and be alert. And then the other ways into Leavenworth, if you're coming from Missouri or even the Kansas City airport, there's not a super easy way. It's those windy country roads. Great if you're on a Sunday afternoon cruise on your motorcycle or your Harley, but not always the best. And you know, if it's raining or snowing, there's no shoulders out there. The roads are in pretty good shape, but you just, you know, deer popping out from behind a bush or a tree, and it just adds a little element of white knuckling to your driving. But
do you have to pay a toll to get over that bridge?
No.
No?
No.
It's not a toll bridge?
No.
Yeah, the down in the Legends, like Zach was saying, that shopping district is the Kansas Speedway. So if you're a fan of race fan, it's down there. And there's also Sporting KC is the professional soccer team for Kansas City. They have their stadium down in the Legends. So that's, you know, a little 10-minute drive from Leavenworth as far as entertainment goes.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool spot. There's a lot of outlets and restaurants galore and barbecue and Nebraska Furniture Mart. What else is huge out there?
Bass Pro, or no, it's Cabela's.
Cabela's, yeah. So there is a lot going on. It pulls a lot of people to the big event spaces out there. So close to all that. So that's kind of, I guess that could be back on our pros list.
Yeah, there's always, for every con, there's a flip side of the coin. You know, it's kind of a bear to get back to Leavenworth if you're from Kansas City, but if you live in Leavenworth, it's great because it's really close to the airport. You know, I think it's probably 10 minutes to the airport. If you've got everything you need there, and don't need to come to Kansas City, then, you know, the location is just fine. Yeah. It's just if you're commuting from Kansas City, like I worked with a general, and I can't remember how many stars, but he was a client that was buying a house in Parkville area, and he was having to commute from Parkville to Leavenworth as he was wrapping up some of his education, and that was kind of a drive. He didn't want to get too far away in Kansas City so Parkville is actually pretty close to Leavenworth, but yeah, getting back and forth is a little bit of a trick.
Yeah, and we'll also have a lot of Leavenworth military folks that choose to live in Platte City for one reason or another. If they want to be close to that city, access to Kansas City also, but then still be close to Leavenworth. So we've got a vlog and all these videos on Platte City as well. So if that's something you're considering, check that out because it's a good option as well. Let's see. And then, you know, downtown Kansas City from Leavenworth, if you're going down to the heart of it, like the Sprint Center or T-Mobile Center, you're looking at about 45 minutes. So it is a little bit of a jaunt. But other than that, you do have pretty much, I mean, there's splash parks for the kids, and Leavenworth pretty much has everything you could need. You just, that major entertainment, you're gonna be traveling, and the airport. And then let's see, number 2 is I have rent versus own. So as you could probably imagine, this was coming with military folks coming in for 2 to 4 years, and there's it's half the size of the city, that there's gonna be a lot of rentals, and that's about 50-50. So 50% home ownership, 50% rentals, and which isn't bad. And I can also say I have rental properties in Platte City, and I've rented to lots of military folks over the years, and they are phenomenal tenants. And anytime I have an opportunity, you can advertise your rental properties at the base just to the military folks. And anytime I've had that opportunity, it's been amazing. So I actually kind of hope every time that I have a tenant switch out that or turn over that it's going to be a military person.
Yeah, and a lot of the areas of Kansas City, when we mention the rent to own ratio, if that ratio gets pretty high on the rental side, it comes with a lot of crime and different kind of stuff where people don't feel invested in their community as much if they're transient and renting. Whereas it's different in Leavenworth. The type of renter that's there, being a military person, is a little bit different than some of the other areas in town. So I would take that con with a grain of salt, that ratio. But it is something to consider because it can affect property values. People that are investors are wanting to buy properties cheap, and because it's all about the numbers. And so I think that can be the reason that the valuations are a little bit lower in Leavenworth, is that rent to own ratio.
Yeah, absolutely. And then last that I have here is the penitentiary as a con. And I think it's just, as a kid, I always, like Grandpa would say, oh, you better not do that, or they're gonna put you in the pen in Leavenworth. That was always that was always a joke around my house. So we always knew about it. We always knew it was there. And then every once in a while, as a kid, going out west for something, we'd drive by it, and you'd see all the barbed wire and stuff, and it's definitely a visual. And maybe it's a good thing too, because I never wanted to go there.
Yeah.
So far,
it's a good deterrent.
Yeah, good deterrent. But it is something you can see right from the main drag, right from the road when you're going through town and heading out west.
It is a maximum security prison, right?
Yeah,
Federal.
It's the real deal. People know about it all over the world, so maybe that's why Leavenworth is such a buzzword.
Yeah, that's one of the first things I think of is like the prison, I don't know that anybody's ever escaped from Leavenworth prison. I'd have to Google that, but I can't imagine how you could, because it's pretty secure.
Walls and walls and walls of barbed wire, yeah. Yeah,
so, I wouldn't worry about it. We're not that far from Leavenworth in Kansas City, and I never am concerned about it, an outbreak at Leavenworth prison. I would live in Leavenworth and not be concerned about it, but it is kind of a little bit of a stigma.
Yeah.
So something to consider when you're looking at Leavenworth.
Yeah, and I will say it's on the north side of town as well. It's right next to the military base property, so it's not like in the middle of the neighborhood. In fact, it's on the other side of the highway from all of the housing. So it's kind of sits up here by itself and to the north with the river on one side, which is probably strategically put there for a reason. And then you go across the highway, and then all the housing starts from there to the south. So, you're not gonna have to worry about having it in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, anyway, is there anything else you want to add? Vibes about Leavenworth?
It's just funny that the biggest con was about convicts.
Yeah, well,
so
is what it is.
No, I think that's about it really for Leavenworth. I mean, if you have specific questions, feel free to reach out to us. We just try and give you a little bit of a general information in these videos, but really what it comes down to is what's important to you. That's whenever we're working with folks, it always comes down to your needs, your priorities, and it's not about us and what we think is important. So hit us up, let us know if you have questions, or if you live in Leavenworth and you think that we missed something really important that should be included in our next video, please put comments below. We love all the input. Yeah, until then.
Yeah, click subscribe, hit all the little bells and all that stuff. Thanks for watching, and just remember, you got a couple friends in the business.
All right.
See you on the next one.